नमः। ॐ श्रीकान्तो मातुलो यस्य जननी सर्वमङ्गला जनकः शङ्करो देवः तं वन्दे कुञ्जराननम्। योऽन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयत्यखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्ना अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम्। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। श्रीहरये नमः. After a short break, we are resuming. So let me start with a small recap. Please do unmute and say things if it is not clear or if the screen is not clear. Here, I have the Bhagavad Gita projected on my screen with the Shankara Bhashyam. So our style has been to go over the Bhashyam wherever it is possible and study the Gita along with the Shankara Bhashya, which is an aid for us to study. In chapter 1, we saw a battle scene. A battle scene was introduced to us where Pandavas and Kauravas stood bearing arms against each other, ready to fight. As the conches blew from each side, Arjuna wanted to see who all have come to fight. He asks Krishna, the charioteer, to get him in the middle of the armies. Senayoho ubhayoho madhye ratham stapayame achyuta. And Krishna does exactly what Arjuna asks for. And Arjuna is gazing at his relatives, teachers, and friends rather than his enemies. He is overcome with compassion, and his thoughts run in his mind. Am I to kill these people for the sake of a kingdom? So, दृष्ट्वेमं स्वजनं कृष्ण युयुत्सुं समुपस्थितं सीदन्ति मम गात्राणि मुखं च परिशुष्यति. He trembles, loses his ability to see what is dharma and adharma, and drops his bow and arrow. Arjuna refuses to fight and is engulfed with sorrow. Visrijya sacharam chapam shoka sambigna manasaha upavishat. He gives up. That is how chapter 1 ends. And chapter 2 begins. Arjuna describes his problem and then finds out that he cannot solve his problem by himself. So he says, Sishyaha te aham prapannam shadhimam. Krishna, so I surrender to you and I am becoming a disciple. Please teach me. At that, Bhagavan starts Bhagavan Uvacha. And he says, Ashocyan anvashocastvam pragyavadanscha bhashase gatasun akatasuncha nanushochanti panditaha. So Bhagavan diagnoses his problem and sees two things, which is shoka and moha. Shoka is the state of his mind and moha is the state of his intellect. So he addresses Arjuna and gives his upadesha so that shoka moha nivritti is possible. So Ashochan is how the teaching starts. A very famous verses throughout chapter where Bhagavan says you cannot really kill anybody because the true nature of Atma is eternal. Bhagavan first expounds on the nature of Atma. Atma Jnana is what Bhagavan gives his teaching initially. The nature of the Atma. Atma Lakshanani. Nasato Vidyate Bhavaha. The real is eternal and the unreal is ever changing. Avinashitu tadvidhi. Know that Atma is eternal. Shuddhaha. Naivam chindanti shastrani. It cannot be destroyed by arms and so on. So he gives the lakshana of Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Atma, which is the nature of a true the nature of the self of a person. So, and Bhagavan says, even that living Atma Vidya at one point, Bhagavan says, even if you think about dharma and adharma, to fight is the right thing for you to do, because Bhagavan addresses it from different perspective and gives him the teaching and says, Swadharmam api cha avekshya na vikampitum arhasi. Hatova prapsase swargam jitova bhokshase mahim. You're going to win either way, so it is good for you to fight. So Bhagavan then comes back and again teaches the nature of Atma throughout second chapter, and then he says, now that I have addressed your intellect, now I'll address your mind. So so far I have taught you Sankhya Yoga. Now I'll teach you Buddhi Yoga. And he says, Karmani eva adhikaraha te yogastaha kuru karmani. He emphasizes the need to do one's duty because siddha siddhyoho samatvam yogaha. In fact, in the second chapter, there are two beautiful definitions for the word yoga by Bhagavan. Siddhya siddhyoho samatvam yogaha is one definition. Karmasu kaushalam yogaha is another definition. Both are beautiful definition. Evenness of the mind is called yoga. Siddhya siddhyoho samatvam. No matter what the circumstances is, if you are able to be in an equipoise situation, equipoise state of mind, then that is yoga. And karmasu kaushalam, dexterity in action, is called yoga. Remaining detached and equal-minded while engaging in work is what Bhagavan teaches. And he says, using the very action that binds you, you can free yourself. This is the secret of karma yoga. So Bhagavan teaches both Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga, and he describes the state of a person. Samadha vachalo buddhihi tada yogam avapsyasi. So when Arjuna hears of such a state, he wants to know how would a person of such steadfast wisdom, sthita prajna bhi, sthita prajnasya ka bhasha kim asita kim vrajeta. And Krishna explains different lakshanani of a dukkheshu anudvignamanaha, sukheshu vigatasprihaha, Nabhinandati, Nadveshti. He has Kurmonganiva. He has all his senses under control. He's a devotee, Matparaha. And he is like an ocean, complete. Apuryamana Machalaf Pratishtham. He compares him to an ocean and he summarizes such a state. He is free of longing and desires and so on. And he ends the second chapter describing such a perfect individual who has both Sankhya and Yoga in his life. Meaning he is both a jnani and somebody who is engaged in this world. That is how chapter 2 ends. And now Arjuna had a question which opens chapter 3 where he says, you described this knowledge of Atma, and you even suggested that karmana jayasi, it is much superior than karma. Then why are you asking me to kim ghore karmani mam niyojayasi? Why are you asking me to fight, to take up this war, which is a cruel thing to do? At that point, Bhagavan again teaches him. Now Bhagavan talks about two lifestyles. Dvivida nishtha, jnana yoga nishtha and karma yoga nishtha. Bhagavan gives several reasons. In fact, if you enumerate it, I think it comes to like 13 plus reasons why you should perform your duty. Niyatam kuru karma, yajnartam karma. Why doing your duty is important becomes the main subject of the third chapter that we saw, which is Karma Yoga. And then Bhagavan says, Yasyatmaratireva syat atmatriptasya manavaha tasya karma na vidyate. But for a jnani, there is no karma. So he seems to have both hand in hand, a karma yogi and a jnani. And he says even the kings like Janaka who attained that level of perfection of a jnani did karma even after having attained jnana, and even through karma yoga they attained karmana eva samsiddhim astitaha janakadayaha. So Bhagavan says, Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatmate chetasa. You dedicate all actions to me and perform your duty. Again, Bhagavan is propelling towards his duty. Arjuna had a question that, oh, now it is very clear as to why I should do my duty, and I also understand the nature of the self as to what is imperishable and perishable. Then if such a clear teaching is there, why do people abandon this and get selfish about it? For this, Bhagavan says, Kamayesha Krodhayesha. And then he says, hey, it is just because of the desires of Kama and Krodha, likes and dislikes, that people get into this cycle. And he explains it and he concludes it by teaching Karma Yoga. And what is Indriyani Parani Ahuhu? The senses are subtler than the Indriyani Parani Ahuhu. The senses are subtler than the sense organs. Indriyebhyah param manaha. The mind is subtler than the senses. Manasastu para buddhihi. The intellect is subtler than the mind. Buddhehe parataha astu saha. Atma is even subtler than the intellect. Meaning that which even enlivens the intellect is the Atma. That even makes intellect possible is the Atma. Know that Atma. Yevam buddhehe param buddhva. Samstabhya Atmanam Atmana. Establish yourself in that Atma. Shatrum Jahi. Win your enemies, both internal and external. And internal Kama Rupam, of the nature of desire, and Durasadam, hard to conquer. Sanskrit, in fact, Shankaracharya concludes it by saying, Samskritena Manasa Samyak Samadhaya Buddhehe Param Atmanam Nyatva Shatrum Jahi. That is how the third chapter concludes in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So that was a very, very short summary of what had happened so far in the last 3 chapters. So we are into the 4th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavan now Shankaracharya gives a small introduction here. Yo ayam yogaha adhyayadvaye noktaha jnananishta lakshanaha. I'm just highlighting where I am reading so that you can follow me. Let me know if the font is too small. Yo ayam yogaha adhyayadvaye noktaha. Adhyayadvaya is 2 adhyayas, which is chapter 2 and 3, because that is where teaching has happened. Ayam yogaha adhyayadvayena uktaha jnana nishtha lakshanaha. Sat sanyasaha karma yogopayaha yasmin vedarthaha parisamaptaha. So it is a beautiful statement by Shankaracharya where the emphasis or the conclusion that Shankaracharya makes is that there is a unified teaching in Bhagavad Gita. There is no, oh, this is one path that somebody can take. Karma is one path. You travel that, you will get to one destination. Jnana is one path, you will get to one destination. Bhakti is one path. Sharanagati is another path. Some bhajanam is another path. People come up with all kinds of ideas. Here, Shankaracharya says, Ayam yogaha adhyana dvayena vuktaha. This yoga is, there is only one yoga and it has two parts. Jnana nishtha lakshana. That yoga has jnana nishtha as the lakshana. The intent is to teach jnana nishtha. And how is it possible? Karma yoga upayaha. By the aid of karma yoga. Yasmin vedartaha parisamaptaha. So karma yoga is the aid, jnana yoga is the ultimate destination, and this is what is the teaching of all yasmin vedartaha parisamaptaha. Here, all the teachings of the Vedas are concluded, meaning whatever Bhagavan needs to really teach has been taught. And with this teaching, pravritti lakshanaha nivritti lakshanascha Gitasu cha sarvasu ayameva yogo vivakshito bhagavata. So having attained this karma jnana yoga, meaning jnana nishtha and karma yoga upaya, then there are two lifestyles possible. One is pravritti lakshanaha, another is nivritti lakshanaha. In fact, Shankaracharya in his introduction actually opens up Gita with this. Marichan prajapatin agre srishtva pravritti lakshanam dharmam grahayamasa vedoktam. Bhagavan taught Marichi and others this pravritti lakshana, and Sanaka Sanandanadin srishtva nivritti lakshanam dharmam grahayamasa. So these two, so you can be engaged in the society and work for the society, in the society, or you can give up some of the religious obligations and be aloof from the society. Pravritti lakshanaha, nivritti lakshanaha cha, Gita sucha sarvasu ayameva yogaha vivakshito bhagavata. This yoga alone has been expounded by Bhagavan in Bhagavad Gita. Ataha parisamaptam vedartam manvanaha tam vamshakatanena stauti Shri Bhagavan. So, having concluded this, Bhagavan wants to give a lineage of people who have followed this teaching and benefited from it. Ataha parisamaptam vedartam manvanaha tam vamshakathanena stauti, stutim karoti. Stauti means he is eulogizing it. He is praising it. Bhagavan wants to show the importance of the yoga, and by showing how this knowledge was imparted and how it was put to use, Vamshanukathanam is called Vamshanukathanam. And why does Bhagavan do this? Actually, it is very, very interesting because this is a style of the Vedas. Sarvopanishado gavo dugdha gopalanandanaha partho vatsat sudhir bhokta dugdham gitamritam mahat. This is one of the dhyana shlokas and you all know this. Sarva Upanishadaha Gita, Saraha Gita. Sarvopanishado gavo dogdha gopalanandanaha dugdham gitamritam. The essence of all the Vedas is gitamritam. And you can see a reflection of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad in this Vamshanukathanam. Whenever a teaching is done in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, then there is a Vamshakatana Parva, where they say, oh, this teaching was understood by such and such person, and this is what this person did, and this is how he taught it to another person, who then followed it and then taught it to another person, and then evam parampara proktam. This is how the teaching has been handed down from one person to another. So two things. One is you develop Pujya Bhavana, a respect towards that teaching, because it has been handed over from Bhagavan himself, because Bhagavan is the Adi Guru. Another thing is, there is a guarantee that this Mahatma has had this teaching from another Mahatma who followed and got where he needs to get. So there is some sort of a guarantee that we are walking a path that has been walked by all the previous Mahatmas before us. So Vamshanukathanena Bhagavan Stauti. Stauti means Stutim Karoti. This is the small introduction that Bhagavad Gita Shankara Bhagavad Padacharya makes for the Chaturtha Dhyaya. So Jnana Yoga Nishtha aided by Karma Yoga is the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. This is the takeaway from this Bhashyam passage, which is a very important takeaway, because this is not how it is interpreted by many other commentators of Bhagavad Gita. Well, we'll see those whenever there is, because everything has a beauty in it. But the reason why Shankara Bhashyam is very important is, unless you understand the Shankara Bhashyam brings the Hridayam of Bhagavan very beautifully. There is, Shankaracharya does not have a proposition or something that he already makes and somehow finds a proof in Bhagavad Gita. That is not how he goes about. He just explains the heart of Bhagavan as it is. And you would see that in the, I'll tell you one small thing which is very striking. In this Bhashyam, he says, Jnananishta lakshanaha sanyasaha karma yogopayaha sasanyasaha. So there is an emphasis of Jnananishta as a sannyasa. And in the place where, there is one place where in the Chaturtha Dhyaya Bhashya, Bhagavad Padacharya says, Sanyasaha na kartavyaha. Sannyasa is not required. So, is Bhagavad Padacharya a proponent for sannyasa? The answer is no, because he just gives out what Bhagavan gives out as it is. So the true as it is Bhagavad Gita is the Bhagavad Gita Bhashyam of Shankaracharya here. That is one reason why first go through the Shankara Bhashyam, and then you can read every other Mahatma's interpretation on it that enhances your understanding after that. So Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Can somebody unmute and read with me? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Imam Vivasvate Yogam.
Imam Divaspate Yogam.
Proktavanaham Avyayam.
Proktavanam Avyayam.
Proktavan.
Proktavan.
Aham.
Aham.
Avyayam.
Avyayam.
Proktavanaham Avyayam.
Proktavanaham Avyayam.
Vivasvan Manave Praha.
Vivasvan Manave Prabha.
Manu. Vivasvan Manave
Vivasvan Manave
Praha.
Praha.
Manuhu
Manuhu
Ikshwakave
Ikshvatave
Abravit.
Abravit
Manurikshwakave Bravit.
Manurikshvakrave Abravit
Imam Vivasvate Yogam.
Imam Divaspade Yogam
Proktavanaham Avyayam.
Muktavanam Avyayam
Vivasvan Manave Praha.
Vivasvan Manave Praha
Manurikshwakave Bravit.
Manurikshvakavi Bravit.
Okay, see, as we So Bhagavan is trying to give the Vamshanukathanam of this Vidya. Imam Vivasvate Yogam Pra Uktavan Proktavan Aham Avi Ayam Avyayam Vivaswan Manave Praaha Praha Manuhu Ikshwakave Abravit. So these are the words that are there. So what does it mean? It means that Bhagavan said, Imam, this imperishable yoga, I declared it to Vivaswan, and Vivaswan taught it to Manu. Manu taught it to Ikshwaku. So there are three people. I taught this to Vivaswan, and Vivaswan taught this knowledge to Manu, and Manu taught this to Ikshwaku. So Vivaswan, from Bhagavan to Vivaswan, Vivaswan to Manu, Manu to Ikshwaku. So this is a lineage of this teaching. Imam adhyayadvayenoktam yogam vivasvate adityaya sargadau proktavan aham jagat paripalayitrunam kshatriyanam baladhanaya tena yoga balena yuktaha samartha bhavanti brahma parirakshitum. Is the first sentence of this bhashyam. So Shankaracharya says, Imam adhyayadvayena uktam yogam. This yoga that has been taught in these two adhyayas, vivasvate, to Vivaswan. Vivaswan means the sun, the Paramatma as the sun, S-U-N, sun. Adityaya, Aditya, Sarga Adau. Sarga means Srishti, Srishtyadau. In the beginning of the creation, Proktavan, I taught it to this, to Vivaswan. Sargadu Proktavan Aham Jagat. Why did I teach it? Shankaracharya says, Aham Jagat Paripalayitrunam Kshatriyanam. I taught it to the Kshatriyas who are going to take care of this Jagat, meaning who have the responsibility of governance. Jagat Paripalayitrunam Kshatriyanam. Why? To give them the strength to govern. Baladhanaya. Tena yoga balena yuktaha. With that yoga bala, with that karma yoga, jnana yoga bala, if somebody is able to guide the society, then what happens is that society gets guided and this knowledge is also preserved. Brahma parirakshitum. This knowledge is, Brahma means this knowledge is preserved, parirakshitum. Brahma kshatre paripalite jagat paripalayitum alam. Actually, when the right attitude and the right action is put together, Brahma Kshatram in the Vedas, you will see this all the time in all the mantras. Brahma Kshatram, meaning the right attitude and right action. When somebody has that, and then when he governs and then guides the society, then that is enough to guide the entire society. And this is for Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam. The word Avyayam, Avyaya Phalatvat. Vyayam means to perish. This knowledge is imperishable as it belongs to Ishvara. So knowledge is not like an object that you lose. Once you gain it, it is there. So once jnana arises, it is inexhaustible. So avyayam, avyaya phalatvat, na hyasya yogasya samyak darshana nishta lakshanasya mokshakyam phalam vyeti. This knowledge is not lost, imperishable in your so, and such a Vivaswana Manave, na hyasya yogasya samyak darshana nishtha lakshanasya mokshakyam phalam vyeti, such a Vivaswana Manave praha manuhu ikshvakave swaputraya adirajaya abravit. So he said, what that means is that no matter what lifestyle you take, pravritti or nivritti, this knowledge is not lost. So I gave this knowledge to Vivaswan, and then Vivaswan, Sacha Vivaswan Manave Praha. Vivaswan taught it to Manu, and Manu Ikshvakave Swaputraya. So at that point, it becomes a human being. So Manu to his son. So until that, it is Deva, Deva Sharira. Now it is Manushya Sharira. Manuhu Ikshvakave Swaputraya Adirajaya. So Ikshvaku, Acharya gives the title of Adi Raja, meaning Ikshvaku is a person in the history of the mankind where a civilized society is seen in his time, where a society where trade, commerce, arts, culture, good governance, cities, all of this is seen in from the time of Ikshvaku. Until then, they are all like forest dwellers and stuff like that, then groups and so on. By the time of Ikshvaku is when we see a huge civilization as such. Manuhu Ikshvakave Swaputraya Adirajaya Abravit. So a couple of observations. One is, for any knowledge, Bhagavan is the source. This is a very beautiful thing in Sanatana Dharma. So nobody will claim, if he is a true Sanatani, he'll never say, I say so, because that knowledge obviously has been passed on from one generation to another generation, and they claim, no matter what parampara you belong to, they claim Bhagavan as the source. For instance, I'll give you the Advaita parampara. Narayanam Padma Bhuvam Vasishtam. Narayana is the Adi Guru. Padma, then Brahma, then Vasishta, Shakti, Tatputra Parasharancha, Vyasam, Vyasa to Shuka, Shuka to Gaudapada, Gaudapada to Govinda Bhagavad Pada, Govinda Bhagavad Pada to Shankaracharya. So this Narayanam Padbabubam Vasishtam Shaktim Tatputra Parasharancha Vyasam Shukam Gaudapadam Mahantam Govinda Yogindra Mathasya Sishyam Tam Shankaram. From there it goes Athasya Sishyam Padmapada and so on, and this comes where Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam, to the teachers of today, to that Vande Guru Parampara. This is true for any Guru Parampara. Lakshmi Natha Samarambam Natha Yamuna Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. This is how Sri Vaishnava Guru Parampara is. From Bhagavan, then Mahalakshmi, then Vishwaksena, then it goes on and on. From there, and then comes to Ramanuja, and then comes to the Acharya who is there during our times. So the same thing even for Madhva Parampara, no, or any other Parampara. I just gave some examples of this. But any Parampara, they always trace the knowledge back to Bhagavan. Another observation is, so Narayana is the Adi Guru. Then why Vivaswan? Why the sun? Because actually, sun is not just an object that enlivens the entire creation. It is also looked upon as the source of knowledge for us. So that is the reason why from Paramatma, the first person to receive is the sun. So who is the first Devata in creation, actually. From light is the first thing that appears. So from that sun, then it is carried on, because that is the reason why you see very great personalities taking Aditya as their guru. Hanuman takes Aditya as his guru. In his about the Charitra of Hanuman, if you see, they say that he learns from Vivaswan himself, from Aditya, from the sun god himself. And Yajnavalkya is another example. And even other Avatara Purushas, when Rama, when he is Tato Yuddha Parishramtam Samare Chintaya Sthitam Ravananchagrato Drishtva Yuddhaya Samupasthitam. when Rama is a little down and he looks at the army of the Ravana returning back after one day of war, that battle, at that point of time, Agastya comes back and then teaches Aditya Hridayam. The intention is to gain the knowledge from the sun. So, the sun as Paramatma, as a pratikam of Paramatma. That is the reason why Pratyaksha Paramatma. In the Vedas, every devata is equally equated to the sun. In Sri Rudram, the entire Rudram is a stuti of the sun god, actually. Asavyastamro arunavuta babrusu mangalaha adrishan nadrishan gopa. Yeah, actually, it is the rising sun that is praised in the entire Rudram. Even though it is dedicated to Rudra, actually the form of Rudra that is described for somebody to for meditation is the rising sun. Asavyastamraha, you are like copperish in complexion. Ata arunaha, sumangalaha. So every devata is Dheya Sada Savitrimandala Madhyavarti Narayanaha Sarasijasana Sannivishtaha. In the Sandhya Upasana, this is how Upasana is taught. Is that you meditate on Lord Narayana in the orb of the sun. Surya Mandala Madhyastam Sambam. Even Parameshwara is, every devata is meditated in the orb of the sun, because sun is the storehouse of not just the life in our times, he is also the storehouse of knowledge. So from him to Vivaswana Manave Praha Manuhu Ikshwakave Abravit. So you can talk a lot about all these. Vivaswana taught it to Manu. Yadvai Manurvadat Tat Bheshajam, says Vedas. Very interesting, actually. What Manu says is like a medicine for you. It cures your problems, says the Veda itself. So that is the status that is given to Manu. And later, the text of Manu Smriti that you see is actually is a lot of interpolations, and it becomes a lot of controversies. That as Manu has written this, that actual Manu, what Manu says comes in the Vedas in itself, and it is Atma Vidya, and a very beautiful outline of how to live your life. That is what has been there in the original Manusmriti, but unfortunately, so many people have added to it, which made it very a point of controversy, but much later. But that is the status of Manu. Yadvai Manuravadat Tat Bheshajam, says the Vedas, as we saw. And from Manu, it is taught to Ikshwaku. Ikshwaku is the lineage in which Rama comes. And then from the same lineage is where Yadu, the Chandra Vamsha becomes another branch. And then Krishna Avatara happens is there. Samyak, so that is the Vamsha Anukatanam. Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Vivasvanu Manave Praha Manuhu Ikshwakave Abravit. So, and Bhagavan gave the adjective avyayam for this knowledge, which is imperishable. Acharya said, Samyak Darshana Nishtha Lakshanaha Mokshaha. For that avyayam, it makes you free. That is the intention of this knowledge. So, why was this knowledge given to Kshatriyas, the kings? Because they have the ability to protect. That is something that the Bhashyakara said, this, and pass on. So you have to give it to the person who is capable of handling it. So that is the reason why it was given to them. And then Bhagavan continues. Let us read the second verse. Somebody else can unmute and read with me. That would be nice. Yevam parampara praptam. Go ahead, anyone?
Evam paramparatmam.
Evam parampara praptam
एवं परम्परा प्राप्तम्
इमं राजर्षयो विदुः
इमं राजर्षयो विदुः
सकाले नेह महता
सकाले एव महता
योगो नष्टः परन्तप
योगो नष्टः परन्तप
एवं परम्परा प्राप्तम्
एवं परम्परा प्राप्तम्
इमं राजर्षयो विदुः
एवं राजर्षयो विदुः
राजऋषयः विदुः राजऋषयो विदुः that is what is the vakya सकाले नेह महता
सकाले नेह महता
योगो नष्टः परन्तप
योगो नष्टः परन्तप
yeah, Bhagavan continues his teaching and says evam parampara praptam this knowledge that has been passed down through the lineage evam parampara praptam imam jnanam rajarishayaha viduhu those who are rajanaha asau rishayaha those who are both rishis and raja they were the kings at the same time raja rishayaha they knew it viduhu saha that knowledge kalena iha mahata yogaha nashtaha parantapa he addresses Arjuna as parantapa and then says due to the due to time sakalena iha mahata due to the effect of time yogaha nashtaha this yoga was lost yogaha nashtaha means it was lost so thus transmitted in regular succession the royal sages knew this and this yoga by long effects of time was lost in this world. Oh, Parantapa is the translation. Interestingly, this is the overall meaning of it. We'll see some interesting aspects of this verse. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarishayaha viduhu sakale neha mahata yogo nashtah parantapa. And there are addresses to Krishna and Arjuna throughout Bhagavad Gita. Vasudeva, Krishna, and so on. Bhagavan Uvacha is how most of the Uvachas are there. And when Bhagavan addresses Arjuna, he'll say, hey, Kaunteya, Arjuna, Gudakesha. So many ways by which he addresses. One way he is addressing here is Parantapa. And Acharya says why he addresses him as Parantapa. He Parantapa, Atmanaha Vipakshabhutaha Para iti uchyate. Those who are opposed to you are called Para. Atmanaha for oneself, Vipakshabhutaha, who are on the other side. Vipaksha means the other side. Para iti uchyate. They are called Para. Tan. Those people, Shaurya Tejo Gabhastibihi Bhanuriva Tapayati Parantapaha Shatrutapanaha Ityartaha. So, those who are on the opposite side, what Arjuna does it, Shaurya with his valor, with his might, Tejaha Gabhastibihi Bhanuhu Iva, like a blazing sun, he is tormenting them. Tapayati, Parantapaha, Shatru Tapanaha, who is able to torment his enemies, is called a Parantapa. Normally, Bhagavad Padacharya does not go into explaining these things like that, but there is a reason why he goes into explaining this verse, this Parantapa so much. Bhanuriva, beautiful explanation. He Parantapa, Atmanaha Vivakshabhutaha Paraiti Uchyate, Tanu Shaurya Tejo Gabastivihi Bhanuriva Tapayati, Parantapa Shatrutapana Ityartaha. What the intention of Krishna is that he wants to give this teaching now to Arjuna. And he wants to make sure that Arjuna feels that he's a capable person to receive this teaching. So, you're such a capable person, is how Krishna addresses Arjuna and says, you have such a mind. You are capable of this. So, he encourages him. So, He Parantapa, Yevam, Kshatriya Parampara Praptam, Imam Rajarishayaha, Rajanashchate Rishayascha, Rajarishayaha Viduhu Imam Yogam. So, Yevam Kshatriya Parampara Praptam. So, this yoga was handed over from one Kshatriya to another Kshatriya who had the responsibility to guide the entire society. They took upon this yoga and passed on to the next person as such. So they were, and here they are addressed in two fronts. One is Rajanascha. They were all people who had the responsibility of governance. Rajanascha. Rishayascha. They had this knowledge as well. They were rishis as well. So they were called Raja Rishi. So you would have heard the word Raja Rishi and Brahma Rishi. So these are not opposing terms. Many people think like that. But Rajanascha sau Rishayascha, they were both Rajas and Rishis at the same time. Viduhu, they knew it. Imam Yogam. Sa Yogaha, that Yogaha, Kalena Ihata Mahata, by prolonged time, Dirghena Nashtaha, is lost. Vichinna Sampradayaha Samvritaha, that Sampradaya. So when we say what is lost, Bhagavad Padacharya explains that there is a methodology of teaching this knowledge that is lost. Vichinna Sampradayaha. So this Sampradaya is a very beautiful thing because knowledge is packaged in that Sampradaya. And without that, it's like consuming a capsule. Without the capsule, it is hard to consume the medicine. So Sampradaya is the capsule in which the medicine is given. So Vichinna Sampradaya, that was lost. He Parantapa, Atmanaha Vibakshabhutaha Parayiti Uchyate Tan Shaurya Jogabhastihi Bhanrivata Tapayati Iti Parantapaha Shatru Tapanaha Ityartaha. This is what Bhagavad Padacharya says. So, Yevam Parampara Praptam Imam Rajarishayo Viduhu Sakalene Hamahata Yogo Nashtaf Parantapa. And Bhagavan in every avatara is actually a guru. The intention of Bhagavan's avatara is to teach. Even Rama avatara, see the way Rama, there is a Rama Dhyana. Many people who know, who are initiated into Rama mantras and stuff like that, are given a dhyana of that devata. And how, you know how Rama Dhyana is? Vaidehi Sahitam Suradrumatale Haime Mahamantape Madhye Pushpatamasane Manimaye Virasane Sustitam. This is all description of Rama. And Agre Vachayati Prabhanjana Sute Tatvam Munibhyaha Param Vyakhyantam Baradadibif Parivritam Ramam Bhaje Shyamalam. This Rama who is teaching Atma Vidya to Bharata and Hanuman and everybody else. So you would have seen Rama with the Chinmudra as Pattabhi Rama. So he's a Atma Vidya Guru. So there is even a text called Rama Gita, not from Valmiki, but in the Puranas and so on. And not just Rama, from every avatar. Actually, this idea comes from Bhagavatam alone, because Matsyavatara, after the avatara is over, after the teaching is Atma Vidya is taught by Matsya Bhagavan, the Pandya Raja gives a stuti in Bhagavatam where Guru he looks upon Bhagavan as a guru. And every avatar of Bhagavan is looked upon as a guru who gives Atma Vidya. That is the point that I wanted to make. In fact, I gave a big talk on it a couple of years ago during a Chaturmasyam for Kanchi Mutt. If the talk is there in YouTube, I'll send the link. It's a very interesting talk where the intention is to show that the avatara of Bhagavan is to teach Atma Vidya. So Bhagavan says, if this parampara praptam was taught to the Rajanascha sau Rishayascha, but due to the effect of time, it was lost. The same sentiment, I just wanted to quote Bhagavatam here. Kapila Vasudeva in his avatara also says the same thing. Yesha atmapathe vyokte nashtah kalena bhuyasa tam pravartayitum deham imam vidhi maya bhritam. So I took up this deha only to teach this Atma Vidya, says Bhagavan in every avatara. One interesting observation that Shankaracharya makes to connect to the next verse is Durbalan ajitendriyan prapya nashtam yogam imam upalabhya lokam cha apurushartha sambandhidam sa eva ayam. So why does this knowledge gets lost in the effect of time? Because Durbala, for people who lack the strength, Durbalan ajitendriyan. When this knowledge is given to somebody who has not conquered his senses, nor made his mind strong. So senses and intellect were not prepared by Karma Yoga to receive this knowledge. When the knowledge lands in the lap of somebody like that, then automatically it is lost. Because you cannot walk the walk. So what is the use of just talking the talk like me? There is no use in it. You have to walk the walk. So Durbalan ajitendriyan prapya nashtam yogam imam upalabhya lokam cha apurushartha sambandhinam. And then Bhagavan says, let us read the next verse. Sa evayam maya tedya
Sa evayam maya tedya
yogah proktah puratanaha
yoga prokta puratanaha
bhaktosi me sakha cheti
bhaktosi me sakha cheti
rahasyam hetaduttamam
rahasyam yetaduttamam
sa eva ayam maya te adya yogaha proktaha puratanaha bhaktosi me sakha cha iti rahasyam hetat uttamam are the words that are there in the shloka. Saha eva ayam mayate adya yogaha proktaha puratanaha bhaktaha asi me sakha cha iti rahasyam hi etat uttamam. So we'll look at this shloka and then conclude. Sorry, we took some time to start today because of the confusion with the link. Sa evayam maya tedya yoga proktah puratanaha. This secret of this ancient yoga, puratanaha yoga, which is supreme, is being taught by me to you today as you are my devotee and friend. So how come I am teaching it to you? Because you are a qualified candidate. Bhagavan just wanted to emphasize that, yes, you are a right recipient for this knowledge, and I am the right teacher as well. So, Saeva ayam maya tedya yoga proktaha puratanaha yoga. So, one thing is, this yoga is not something that I am coming up with now. This is something that has been taught by in the parampara, and kalena mahata nashtaha, because it was lost in time. I am teaching it again to you. Why? Bhaktosime sakhacha iti rahasyam hetaduttamam. So here sa eva ayam mayate tubhyam adya idanim yogaha proktaha puratanaha bhaktaha asi me sakacha asi iti rahasyam hi yasmat etat uktam yogaha jnanam ityarthaha. Is the bhashya. The bhashya is just an anuvada of the shloka. He didn't give something more than that, because here a couple of observations. One is Bhagavan gives the qualification for somebody to receive the teaching here, which is bhaktaha asi, because you are a devotee. So the qualification to receive the teaching is you have to be a bhakta. Because bhakti is what makes a disciple get in touch with the teaching. Because the bhakti is just a way by which you lose your ego there. Ego is a barrier towards connecting to the. When that barrier doesn't exist, then you are connected. Bhaktosi me. Sakha. Sakha is a very interesting word, because the Vedas address a person who is receiving the teaching and the person who is giving out the teaching as Sakha, Sakha Yamabravit, Sakha, Sakha Yamabravit. A Sakha is talking to another Sakha. Sakha, Sakha Yamabravit. So Bhagavan also uses the term Sakha. Bhaktosime Sakha cheti. Hey, you are not just a devotee, you are my friend as well, because you can move with me with ease. That is the intention here. So the qualification here is you move with me with ease and you have no ego. Whenever there is a disciple for Bhagavan, he says this. Even when Bhagavan is ready to leave his body and he is going to conclude his avatara, Uddhava, who has been there with Bhagavan all along, sees that. And then he approaches Bhagavan. And at that point of time, Bhagavan teaches him Atma Vidya and asks him to leave everything and take sannyasa and go to Badrikashrama. He blesses him with his padukas. And then Uddhava leaves to Badrikashrama. But in the context of the teaching, Bhagavan says, Tamme Bhrityaha Suhrit Sakha. Bhrityaha Sukrit Sakha. With the same sentiment that with which he addresses Arjuna here. And says, because of that, I'm giving you this teaching. So when we read Bhagavad Gita, we become a Sakha of Krishna there. So how do you become a Sakha of Krishna? By taking up Gita for study. Sayevayam mayate adya yogaha proktaha puratanaha bhaktaha asime saka cheti rahasyam hetaduttamam. So the word rahasyam is generally seen as something very secret. Rahasyam. We use it in colloquial languages too. Hey, this is rahasyam. This is very secretive. But actually that word is not used in this context here. Rahasi hridaye stitam. This teaching is actually tene brahma hridaya adi kavaye mukhyante yat suraya. This is how Bhagavatam opens. The teaching is passed on from one heart to another heart. Rahasi means to the heart. To the heart. Rahasi stitam rahasyam hetaduttamam. And then Arjuna has a doubt now. Bhavata vipratishiddha muktamiti va bhut kasyachit buddhi iti Pariharartham chodyam iva kurvan Arjuna uvacha. Arjuna sees that, hey, there is an inconsistency in this. He says this Krishna who was born to Vasudeva is saying that he taught it to Vivaswan. And somebody who is listening to this might get that doubt as to how come this Krishna is taught to that sun at the beginning of the creation. Somebody might get that doubt. So let me ask it as a question. So, iti pariharartham, just to get, so that nobody else should get that doubt, chodyam iva, as though he wants to ask a question, kurvan Arjuna. It is not that Arjuna doesn't understand. According to Shankaracharya, Arjuna knows that this Krishna is capable of teaching sun god himself, Vivaswan himself. So, and I'll read that shloka and conclude. Arjuna uvacha. Arjuna says, aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvatah kathame tadvijaniyam tvamadau proktavaniti. So with that, we'll conclude here and then take up the shloka. And I think we should have a target of 5 shlokas, but because we had an introduction today, we could cover only 3. With that, we'll conclude. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Tat sat krishnarpanamastu.